Good morning and welcome to today's episode of Reflect and Revive. My name's Naomi Bussinger and I'm super excited to be coming at you today with lesson 2 in what I've called 7 tips to spiritual growth. Last week we talked about personal responsibility and how you have to come to a place, if you are interested in growing spiritually, where you will acknowledge that the words that you say, the choices that you make are your responsibility alone, and not the fault of anyone else. Not the fault of anyone and how they treated you, not the fault of any situation, but understanding that you had the complete option and opportunity every time a decision is made to make the right decision. Not that you'll always be perfect, but that you will be striving to improve as you go from one experience to another. So today we dive into personal accountability. What's the difference between the two? I encourage you to grab a paper and pen. At the end of this, I'm going to be going over 5 tips that I think will help you be more accountable to the life that you're living. We won't have time to read through all the scriptures. So if you want to write them down, it'd be great to go back and read them and pray over them and see where you can apply them to your life. So how would I go about biblically identifying accountability? I think that would have to come through Hebrews chapter 4 verses 13. Nothing in all creation is hidden from God. Everything is naked and exposed before his eyes, and he is the one to whom we are accountable. So I looked up a couple of definitions, and there's much to be desired, but I'll tell you what they were anyway. The first most common one was accountability, able to give an account. The second one was a little bit better. It said have a responsibility to offer an account to someone. Now, most of us know what accountability is. I think the easiest way to describe the difference between responsibility and accountability to someone is in the frame of the workplace. So let's say you had an employee named Tom, and he was responsible for ordering the supplies for the office. He would continue to be responsible for ordering the supplies for the office until there came a moment in which he did not do so. The office was out of supplies, and at that point, he would then be held accountable for his actions. So that kind of gives you the difference between responsibility and accountability. But what is personal accountability? Personal accountability, you can read a little bit about in Romans chapter 14, verses 12. Yes, each of us will give a personal account to God. What does that mean? That means that each of us are going to give an account to him, a testimony to him of our own lives, the work, the actions, the things that we chose to do while we were in this body here on earth. No one can do it for us. There will be no one standing there, trying to make excuses, getting us out of anything. It's either going to be a moment in which you rejoice for the rewards that are given to you, or you suffer for the lack of those rewards. So now is the time to definitely hold yourself accountable. You have a choice in life here on earth to hold yourself accountable, but you will not have a choice when you come before God whether he's going to hold you accountable or not. He's just going to. So why not start now? If you feel like your spiritual life is not where it's supposed to be, start now with growing. You start where we did last week with personal responsibility, taking ownership for your actions and the words that you say. And then follow that up with realizing that you are held accountable to everything that you do. Now, how is that accountability measured? We can't control everything that happens to us in life. We can't control the things that people say or the things that people do. I think that we're held accountable by the things that were out of our control and how they affected the things that were in our control. Let that sink in for a moment. The things that are out of your control in your life right now, how are they affecting the things that are in your control? That's a really good question to ask yourself, to kind of see where you're at and where you want to be. If you're not going through a really rough time right now, maybe reflect back on the last storm you went through. You know, how did that season in your life affect the things that you can control? What are the things you can control? It's hard, but your mood, I'm preaching to myself. Your mood, your body language, the way in which you're talking to people. You're in a stressed out environment at work. How is that impacting the light that is being, that is shining from you in that moment? Is the stress of what's going on dimming your light? Or are you taking accountability for your own actions and letting that light shine no matter what? There was a time in my life in which I do not think that I was interested at all in personal responsibility or accountability. There was someone that had very negatively impacted my life in pretty much every aspect, you know, financially and spiritually, physically, the roof over my head, like every part of my life was impacted by things that I couldn't control. But where I messed up was, instead of embracing God, embracing his promises in the word, and standing on his foundation, I chose to just play victim and let everything that was being done to me project me into a direction in which I didn't care about anything. And I also didn't care about the consequences. The consequences were not my fault. The consequences were this other person's fault. Well, this is this person's fault because of this or because of that, because of that. You know, I didn't own up to anything at all. And my life got really dark and not cool for a long time because of that. So I'm here to tell you today, you don't have to go down that path. Like, you can cut it off now. Take ownership, take responsibility. Realize that you're being held accountable whether you want to or not, and take the steps needed to improve the quality of your life and the spiritual maturity that you're at right now. So why is this important? 2 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 10 says, "We must all stand before Christ to be judged. We will receive whatever we deserve for the good or evil we have done in this earthly body. We will give an account to God. We will not choose whether we're going to do that or not. But we can choose to start to make ourselves accountable today." If this is something that you're struggling with, I'm going to give you a list of 5 things that I think may help you. Each one at the end, I'm going to have a scripture that kind of backs it up. So write it down and just dive in. The first one is learn to fear the Lord. Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13. Learn to fear the Lord. Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13. Number 2, on how to hold yourself accountable. Be accountable to others. Get an accountability partner. If there is a sin that you are having a problem with, if there is some sort of addiction in your life that you are struggling with letting go, even though like that's like your heart's desire, you hate that you do it, you want to get rid of it, get an accountability to partner. Confess to a brother or sister. Be very open with them. Establish a plan in which they can help hold you accountable. Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 9 through 12. Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 9 through 12. Number 3, and how to hold yourself accountable. Be honest with yourself and with others. And when I was telling you about my own personal story, I wasn't honest with myself or anybody, you know? Everything was the blame game. Yeah, bad stuff was being done to me, but I kind of accepted it and used that as an excuse to blame that on everything else in life. I used that as an excuse to say I had no control over anything, which was not the truth. Psalm chapter 32, verses 2 through 5. Psalm chapter 32, verses 2 through 5. Number 4, on how to hold yourself accountable, make a personal action plan full of goals and strategies on what you're going to do to grow spiritually and to hold yourself accountable. One of the most impactful things that I've done over the last year has been every single morning during my quiet time, I write a list of 10 things that I'm grateful for. I write a list of 3 daily goals, 3 monthly goals, and 3 long-term goals. Writing stuff down, having to-do lists, having things that we purposefully reflect back on throughout the day, or at least daily, help us grow in the direction that we want to. So if you're struggling with accountability, why not write down goals and strategies daily for that? Luke chapter 14, verse 28 to 29. Luke chapter 14, verse 28 through 29. And the last tip for holding yourself accountable, we are in the age of technology. Unfortunately, there are many people who have strong, oppressive addictions that have to do with the internet. If you do fall into this category, now's the time to get some help. And there's plenty of software out there made by Christian-owned companies that can help you with that. I've written down just 2 that I know of. I know that Focus on the Family does some as well. Accountable to you. Accountable, the number 2, and then you, and Covenant Eyes. If you're struggling with pornography or online gambling or anything else that may be an issue, this software helps you and your family hold each other accountable. And a great scripture for that is Proverbs chapter 28, verse 13. Proverbs 28, 13. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to continuing this journey of spiritual growth next Saturday. I hope you have an amazing weekend, and we'll see you soon.